Hi, I'm Ross Benjamin. Welcome to another edition of the Winner's Circle. It's Monday, November the 9th, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host and Las Vegas professional sports handicapper, longtime Las Vegas professional sports handicapper, the iconic, the irreplaceable one, Chip Chirimbus. Chip, how was your weekend?
Well, it could have been better. We've been running roughshod over the point spread in the last 8 weeks, but ran into a brick wall on Saturday. Had only one win, but I doubled my production on Sunday. I had two wins.
Well, anyway, yeah, it was a tough weekend. I
Yeah.
went 2-2 in college football on Saturday. Went 2-3 in the NFL yesterday. It's been a little bit of I'm kissing my sister lately over the last couple of weeks, meaning wins and losses are right around even. So we're gonna get it going this week, though. You know what, Chip? This is our Monday version of the
Yep.
show, and to bring the listeners and viewers up to speed. And I appreciate all of you who have tuned in over the first week of our show. Really appreciate all the views. Hopefully, you'll continue to view us, and we'll continue to educate you in the world of professional sports handicapping, namely football at this present time. You're airing and viewing us on the OSGA YouTube channel. And if you have not subscribed already, I would appreciate if you did so. Chip would as well, and so would the owner, Jim Quinn of OSGA. It's absolutely free to do so. There's no strings attached. There's no hidden agenda. You could opt out at any time if you wish, if that's your prerogative. And again, to be notified upon any of our sports betting videos going up on this channel, just please hit that bell. It's a notification button, and you'll be notified immediately. That's the OSGA YouTube channel. And be sure, folks, do us a favor. Give us a like at the end of the video if you like what you hear and watch. It goes a long way in telling us how we're doing. And feel free to comment on any of our videos and give us any feedback on what you'd want to hear in the future, and anything that we said that you disagree with or agree with. Either or, as long as you keep it respectable. Right, Chipper? Well, we don't want no belligerent people chiming in, because it creates negative energy, folks, and it does nobody any good, and it discourages others from chiming in as well.
I agree 100%. It's tough enough to beat the number and the man here, and each and every day we have issues we have to deal with. And I'd like to give a positive attitude about everything as well, Ross. Negativity, it just doesn't help. I can sit here and cry spilt milk about a team that outgained the opposition by 150 yards and we lost by a missed field goal. That's why we call it gambling. I mean, we're out here every day just, fighting the man, and it's a struggle, and it's not easy. But,
No.
You've been successful, and I've been really successful over the period of time. And by the way, did you have to add that long-time Vegas resident?
Hey, you know what? It's not often that I could add that, because I've been around for a while too, but you've been around longer, pal. And that's okay.
Hey.
I'm good with that. As a matter of fact, I talk to Chipper on a daily basis for the most part. And when we decided to do this show, I was pretty flattered that he wanted to do it with me, because I've been following him a long time, and mutual respect from afar. And, he's had nothing but success in his business. He may have come off a tough Saturday, but you know what, folks? My money's on him to bounce back this Saturday in college football and this week as well. So anyway, Chipper, we got some intriguing situations coming up in college football. And to bring the listeners and viewers up to speed once again, on Mondays, we're going to take an early look at the college football matchups for the upcoming week. Take a little look back at what happened in the previous week. And then we're going to do the same thing in the NFL on Tuesday. And then Thursday and Friday is going to be our Thursday show, will be our late edition of the college football Winner's Circle. And again, on Friday, a late edition of the NFL on the Winner's Circle as well. So just so you know what the format is going forward. Having said that, Chipper, we both had Virginia Tech against Liberty last week as a 17-point favorite. And boy, oh boy, you got to give Liberty credit where credit is due. They went into Blacksburg and they knocked them off 38-35. as a 17-point road dog. And, I went into that, Chip, and I said, you know what, Chip? They're 6-0. They beat an FCS team, and the 5 FBS teams they faced going into that matchup were like 4-26 straight up combined. And I said, there's no way they're going to be able to match up with an ACC team. But boy, was I wrong. Your thoughts?
My thoughts are, Ross, we lost a major play on Saturday. Both of us had agreed that we didn't like the Virginia Tech game as much as we liked the Louisville, Virginia game. And that game was pushed off, and it threw me totally out of sync. And, we could make excuses till the cows come home. But we really thought we had the strongest play on the board was canceled. And from that point on, we were scrambling. I mean, we both liked Iowa and won that one as the next strongest play. But I think that had a little bit to do with, say, the struggle we had last weekend. But let me say this about this Virginia Tech game and what we're talking about now. Strange situation, isn't it? Where they're coming up favored against a number 9 ranked Miami team. This is what you wanted to talk about, wasn't it?
Yes, exactly. It was a segue.
And Virginia Tech. I mean, now we're back again. It's a really tough place here for the Hokies after getting beat last week and on the last play. I mean, they blocked the final play of the game. Ross ran it back for a return for a touchdown, and then had to negate it by their own timeout that they called. Yeah. And then, of course, Liberty makes like the field goal and wins the game. I don't know how they're going to recover psychologically here, but we know that Louisville's coming in, and it's going to be interesting. I mean, Miami's coming in. Excuse me. I'm still thinking of last week with that Louisville matchup. Yeah. So, in Miami, they just they snuck by NC State and trailed most of the game and made a really valid comeback. They show that they are one of the top teams. They've come a long way. This Derek is his name, Derek King. Yeah, Derek King he shows me he can play football, and I think Miami's a very strong team. So why, Ross? Why in this situation against a Virginia Tech team was a beaten outright 17-point favorite? How do they come up the favorite in this game?
Well, we're going to come up again and say, I should say, use one of my old cliches that I'll continue to use. We have to think like a bookmaker here. Right. All right. So, I mean, let's think about this. Even if the game was at Miami, according to the way the line is set, they'd be somewhere around a 3.5-point underdog at Miami. Again, that line would jump right off the board at me when you consider Virginia Tech is the unranked team against the number 9 team in the country. That's not the case. The game is in Blacksburg. Virginia Tech is currently being the key word, folks, because we're airing on Monday, a 2.5-point favorite. When I see situations like this, my antennas go up. And, I look inside the numbers, Chip, and Miami, really not a great defensive team. Derek King has been terrific for them. I mean, he's a dual threat quarterback in every sense of the word. It's what the Miami program has been lacking for several years now, stability and production at quarterback. So I'm at this early juncture, I'm going to look for a reason to use Virginia Tech. I think the bookmakers are looking at strength of schedule. I think they're looking at the fact that Virginia Tech is smarting coming off that upset loss, and they may have been looking ahead. And Miami, second straight game on the road. And again, they'll be in tough. It's not easy to win in Blacksburg, even though Liberty pulled it off. So again, Chipper, I think my early lean right now is I'd be looking to use Virginia Tech going forward, but I'll have more of a decisive opinion later on in the week. Yourself?
Well, I'd like to take a little look at the history of the matchup between these two schools and see what they've done in the past, for sure. But it sure looks strange. And, we have to keep in mind, too, I know Miami's number 9, and we've had teams, I think, that were under 500 that are ranked in the top 25 because it's been so diluted. Yes. I mean, we've had the Big Ten didn't get involved, and the Pac-12 just started. And so it's, that I have to keep in mind because Miami may not be truly the number 9 ranked team in the country, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, but absolutely.
Having them come up an underdog here, it certainly raises an eyebrow.
Yeah, it's really, it's 2020, right, Chip? Yeah. We look up and we see the rankings that came out today. Liberty is ranked number 23, and Coastal Carolina is ranked number 15. All due respect to those two football programs. They're both undefeated. But under normal circumstances, if everybody started at the same time this year, you didn't have a late start for the Big Ten and the Pac-12 in the Mountain West. You may have seen these teams sneak into the top 25, Coastal Carolina especially. I'm not so sure Liberty would be there at this particular moment in time, but give them credit, Chip. They went in on the road against an ACC opponent and knocked them off. This takes me to this. Here's an interesting matchup. Not so much. I mean, when I say interesting, usually it's not, it doesn't coincide with a favorite of 25.5, the way Ohio State is at Maryland this week.
Right.
But you know what, Chip? You got a Maryland team coming off back-to-back wins as underdogs of 17 points at home against Minnesota, and then last week go on the road and dominate Penn State in a 35-19 win and upset them as a 27.5-point underdog. And here they are, a 25.5-point underdog at home against Ohio State. And, you know, Chip, Ohio State, very lackluster effort last week against Rutgers at home, last Saturday, I should say, and never came close to covering the 38-point favorite point spread. They won by, I believe, 22 points or something along those lines. But when I look inside their numbers, Chip, I'm used to seeing dominant numbers on the defensive side of the ball for Ohio State. Now, they're not bad. They're only allowing 23 points and 360 yards a game, but not what we're used to from a typical Ohio State defense. Your thoughts?
Well, Ohio State's they're going to Maryland, and I'm intrigued about the game that you brought it up because Maryland all of a sudden has life. They've got the second version, Tua, or Tua. I'm going to call him Tua. So Tua is leading the way, and you know what? Yeah. He looks like a player. He really does. And by the way, you know, we mentioned Coastal Carolina and Liberty before. Both those teams are good football teams. We watched and seen them play. So like you said, they would have been somewhere in the rankings, maybe not as high as they are now, but they're both really good football teams. Now back to this Maryland team who no one expect anything out of this year. To pull that big upset, Penn State only had, I think, 35 yards rushing the entire game. What's going on with the Nittany Lions? Yeah. That, you know, they can't move the ball at all. And now what's Ohio State going to do against this team? Can they run the ball against Maryland? I think they probably could. And with, you know, their quarterback being the way he is, completing 88% of his passes already, who's going to stop Ohio State?
Yeah, you know, Chip, I think that Ohio State will move the ball at will in this game, but Maryland's a dangerous, better than 3-touchdown underdog in the sense that, you know, I'm not going to go out on a limb and say they're going to knock off Ohio State. But, you know, you're always leaving yourself open for that backdoor cover when you have a team that can move the ball as well as Maryland does. And I like to call it a puncher's chance, right, to use a boxing terminology. You got a team that could score, and that might allow them to stay in the game. And like I alluded to, Ohio State, not as dominant in their first 3 games. I mean, I know I'm nitpicking when I say that, Chip, but you can move the ball on Ohio State.
Well, Nebraska moved the ball readily in the first half in that game against them, and then all of a sudden it was like the Buckeyes called off the dogs, and Nebraska just fell apart, and the Buckeyes ran all over Nebraska in the second half. You know, these teams that are so highly rated like this, I mean, like Alabama's a 23-24 point favorite over LSU this week. It just seems to me, Ross, that the really top elite, the echelons, are so much better. It isn't even like there's a second tier there. It's like they have to drop down to a C+ rating in a competition. I mean, we've got Alabama hasn't been anything less than a 21-point favorite in all SEC matchups. Their ACC matchup against Georgia. I don't know. I mean, Georgia's an SEC team. Excuse me, right?
That's correct.
I'm just rambling on here, and I hope I don't show a likeness to anyone else.
Well, you know what? Alabama actually has gone up to 28. That jumped out at me a lot because they're at LSU. They're going to be out for revenge after losing at home to LSU last year. We both know LSU is not the same team they were a season ago, not even close.
Nope.
It doesn't take a brain surgeon to make that kind of statement. But in any event, This is also an LSU defense that's allowed 45 points or more in 3 of their 5 games this year. And this Alabama, right now, they're an offensive juggernaut. Matt Jones, a much better quarterback than a lot of people gave him credit for, and a lot of people expected. You know, he might be a pro. In my
I think he definitely is. I'm sorry, Ross. I mean, I think he's definitely a pro. I think he's got the size, and he throws a great ball. And I mean, I really think I think he's a #1 draft pick somewhere. I really do. And along with, of course, Zach Wilson out of BYU, who people may not realize, he's the prototypical quarterback. The size and the motion reminds me of the Manning brothers. But now you're absolutely right. I think Matt Jones is a pro. I think he's going to play Sundays.
I'll tell you who Zach Wilson reminds me of. Take away the body language, is Jay Cutler. Just his throwing motion and his movements on the field. He's got that type of arm that Cutler had. You know what I mean? He can make all the throws. Hopefully, he has a better career on the pro level.
I hope he has better mentality, Ross, because.
Oh yeah, because Cutler always looked to me like he didn't care.
I was just going to say, it looked to me like it really didn't matter to him if he won or not.
Yeah,
and that bothers me. That's like what bothers me with these guys taking days off all the time when they're being paid to play, and they're taking a day off. Why don't you take a day off during practice, the day before the game? I don't, So
the same thing. I tell you, the same thing to me, Chip. I don't know if you've observed this yourself. Is the body language I see with Cam Newton this year in the NFL? I noticed the college football show, but. That's another guy who won a national championship in Auburn. Yeah. Again, I don't know. I look at those types of things, and when I see a guy Cutler, really, I hate to keep picking on him, but you're right, Chip. He played at Vanderbilt. He got beat up a lot there. They didn't win very much, but he was obviously a pro-type talent because of his arm. Right. Okay, but then when he went to the Bears and played in the NFL, it was like, you know what? I don't care. Just pay me at the end of the week.
When he came to Miami, he just was going through the motions. He could have cared less. He was throwing jump balls up there toward the defensive backs. I mean, so I'm sorry to hear you said he had that kind of body language, but I think he's got all the tools. That's for sure.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's not that he has that body language. It's just his motions on the field. Okay. The way his arm motion when he makes a throw.
Okay.
He's got that type of arm, and just the way he walks. Now, I don't want to paint a picture. The kid's got one of those, has that body language that's a defeatist type attitude I see with what we're mentioning with Jay Cutler. So anyway, talking about Penn State, really surprising. What are they now? 0-2?
0-3.
0-3. Yeah, 0-3. Lose the opening game to Rutgers, a game that they thoroughly outgained them. The following week, they came up short against Ohio State, failed to cover as an 11.5-point underdog and a 13-point loss. Nothing to be embarrassed of there, but there was a lot to be embarrassed of last week in that home loss to Maryland. And, 0-3, they go on the road at Nebraska this week, Chip, and they're a 3-point favorite again. What's going on?
By the way, Ross, they lost that opening game to Indiana.
Yeah, Indiana. I'm sorry.
When they outplayed them, they held them 31 yards. Right. But that's all right. And can you envision? Here we are entering the second weekend in November. All right, this will be the second weekend in November. Penn State playing Nebraska, and neither of them has a win yet.
0-5 combined. How about that?
Neither of them has a win. We're playing the second week in November, and boy, I remember the days when these two were playing for national championships against each other. But the Penn State is a big question up here because they didn't run the ball. I mean, they just stopped Indiana completely and lost the game. We had talked about that opener. 10 major errors, 10 penalties, 3 missed kicks, 3 turnovers inside the red zone. What are you going to do with this team now? I mean, do they have enough inside to garner themselves, to get themselves together to play a Nebraska team that's just weaker than everyone else? I thought last week they had the lead over Nebraska at halftime, and I mean over Northwestern. And I said, Nebraska's going to get in a win column, and I had used them in a free spot, so because it was an early game. And I would tell you the truth, when I saw the final of that game, Ross, I was like in shock. I really thought that they had come to play, and now You have them as a 3-point dog, 3.5-point underdog at home, winless against a winless Penn State team. And you have to check Penn State's motivation at this point. They know they're not going to the Rose Bowl. They know they're not playing for the national championship. What's left for the season for them, Ross?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the thing, and that's where coaching comes into play. How much do you want to play hard for your coach? At 0-3, your aspirations, like you said, of a Big Ten title, a national championship, or even a major bowl game are out the window. Now it's about the senior leadership. Now it's about the coach. We'll see what the character of this team is this week, but I found it awful ironic. We mentioned Penn State. Here they are again, a favorite on the road. I mentioned I thought they beat Rutgers by accident, but Rutgers, that was a win Rutgers had against Michigan State, which leads me into this segue. Michigan State goes on the road as a 21.5-point underdog, knocks off Michigan, and then gets lambasted against Iowa. It's hard a couple of these teams, it's hard to put a finger on right now, especially in light of the fact that the Big Ten schedule just started, right, Chip? And I believe Michigan State, I had it written down, if I'm not mistaken, they're a favorite again this week, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to look that up. But in the meantime, your thoughts on Michigan State and the sort of roller coaster ride they're on right now?
Michigan State, of course, I thought they were one of the weakest teams in the conference when they lose to Rutgers. Rutgers had lost to 22 straight Big Ten games. And, I think it was you that might have pointed out or that Michigan State had committed 7 turnovers in that game.
Yes.
So maybe they weren't quite as bad as we may have seen, and they really didn't have a true opportunity to put together really good stats. Oh, by the way, mentioning Penn State, it was 9 years ago today that Joe Paterno was jettisoned from the program.
Wow.
And they haven't recovered since, in my mind.
Boy,
Anyway,
it's 9 years. That seems like it just was a couple of years ago,
Yeah, and the thing is, they didn't even wait till the end of the season, and they took him out in mid-year, and I don't even think he had a clue as to what was going on.
Yeah, and he was in rest of soul. He was passed away shortly after.
Yeah, I think it killed him. I think it helped. Jettison his life. But Michigan State, I'm still. They have to prove to me that they can play yet. They're a big question mark, and I'm not looking to back them at all until I can see them. I mean, go out there beating Michigan. I mean, that's really incredible. Are you trying to tell me that Michigan, who's favorite on the road at Minnesota this week, has fallen that much? They're 1-2, and after I was in shock that Michigan State beat Michigan, Ross. I really was. I didn't think that Michigan State was going to be able to play with them at all.
Well, I'll tell you, the Michigan win doesn't look as good as it did at that time. Michigan's now dropped 2 in a row. I said Michigan State, I thought was a favorite. No, interesting situation here. They're hosting number 10 Indiana. And this game opened with Indiana as a 9-point favorite. It's now down to 7.5, Chip. Real interesting in the fact that Indiana is coming off, speaking of Michigan, an upset win at home against Michigan. If you want to call it an upset, they were a 3.5-point dog. And that was the first time they had beaten Michigan in 25 tries. As a matter of fact, 0-24 against Michigan. Hadn't beaten them since 1987. Now they come off that big win. They're going on the road to beware of the wounded animals sometime, Chip. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, I mean, it definitely a situation that might be one of those, like I like to allude to, Chipper, is making an uncomfortable play. Any early thoughts on that line movement and that line in that particular game?
Well, I have a big question about this Indiana team. They beat Penn State opening game. We saw that, and you and I saw the statistics in that game. It was amazing. They only had like 31 yards rushing and 29 attempts, something thereabouts in that neighborhood. And so I was looking, and then they come back and they beat. They're Rutgers. Just playing so well, and now they're favorite on the road here. I'm wondering if I have a very good friend from Indiana. He keeps telling me that they're going to they're a great team this year, and I go, maybe their swim team, but I don't know about their football team.
They're number 10. They're 3-0 in the Big Ten.
Well, you got to give them kudos for that without question. And they just, the way things are, teams are not playing the regular sequences. Schedules are being changed in midweek and things along those lines. I'd like to get another look at them, of course. Like I said, it's only the fourth game, but it is November, the second week of November. So fourth game or not, we've got to start doing some more homework and
Yeah.
get a little bit more observation time. I mean,
It's not even a matter of whether we think Indiana is good enough to be number 10. It's a matter of the spot, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about a spot in which they're coming off a win over a longtime nemesis in Michigan. Now they're going on the road to face a Michigan State team who was 1 week removed from knocking off Michigan as a three touchdown underdog, and then gets lambasted, as I alluded to, at Iowa 49-7.
Yep.
It would be easy. I mean, I can't see public perception not going with the team with momentum right now, meaning the public betting, Indiana.
Don't you think the way we think that it sets up that the Spartans should come to play?
Yes.
Yeah, and you're right. And my question and what I was trying to say was, I don't know if I realize if they're good enough, because their past history in the last few years, they've been absolutely horrendous. And Indiana has been on an upswing. The entire program has been really, they had chances to beat Penn State the last couple of years and never did it. They had chance to cover against Ohio State and never did it. It seemed like they'd always falter late in the game in the fourth quarter, fumble a punt, and the other side come in with the cover and beat us. Yeah. And now maybe they're a little stronger, a little more mature. And we have to wait and see. I'm going to have to do a little bit of studying, I guess, Ross, to see if MSU will come to play today. But it looks like they're supposed to be ready after the beating they took to Iowa and after the wins that Indiana has already put up. Being at home, they should come ready to play.
A new coaching staff there at Michigan State. Keep that in mind. Mel Tucker taking over for Mark D'Antonio, who resigned at the end of last year, surprisingly. So that may be a reason for a little bit of the roller coaster to start the season right now. But certainly a game we'll talk about on Thursday, Chip. We got about a couple minutes left, and we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Notre Dame's win over Clemson. And, we talked off air, and a lot of games get a lot of hype, and they don't live up to expectations. But boy, oh boy, that game certainly did, with Notre Dame winning 47-40 in overtime. And now, here's the ironic thing. I talked to you on the phone about this. The last time Notre Dame had hosted a number one team in the country was in the early 90s when Florida State was coached by Bobby Bowden. They upset Florida State in that game. That was a Lou Holtz coached Irish team. The following week, ironically, they went on the road. They hosted Boston College. And they got beat as a double-digit underdog in that game. And lo and behold, they go on the road to face Boston College this week. Talk about irony.
Yeah, well, it's two Jesuit schools meeting this week with Boston College and Notre Dame, and the Eagles will always be ready for Notre Dame, that's for sure. Great performance by the Irish. And I'll tell you something. I was watching this game, and I know I had no action on it. I just couldn't make a call. I didn't even want to flip a coin. I figured it would end up on its edge. But Notre Dame can play football. This is a good football team. And I was called one of my friends in New York. I said, because I didn't think the Irish would win the game, actually, even the way it was playing out. And I called my buddy in New York. I said, win or lose, this team can play. And I was very impressed with them. And the thing about Notre Dame is, here they are now. They're going to Boston. And the other thing that was brought up to me, if you hear this week about Trevor Lawrence not being in that game and not being a part and being Trevor Lawrence does not play defense. He does not tackle anybody. And Trevor Lawrence would have had to put up 46 points as opposed to 44 points.
Not for nothing, too, Chipper. That true freshman quarterback threw for over 460 yards. How much better could Lawrence have done?
He's playing great football. The kid can play. You can see that. You can understand why he went to Clemson. And as a backup quarterback, I mean, he's doing outstanding. Listen, Clemson's not going to go away. We know that, right? I mean, Clemson's going to be there, and I think Notre Dame's going to be there as well. So these two actually may see each other again
in the ACC championship game.
But Notre Dame held the all-time ACC record holding runner to 30 yards.
Yeah,
They didn't
18.
allow anything on
Yeah.
the ground that game. They are big, they are strong, and they're a lot faster than I thought.
You know who
and
I was really impressed with,
receivers are
Chipper?
good.
I had my doubts, and I mentioned to you about Ian Book, the quarterback for Notre Dame, and I
Look
said,
much better.
Chip, he needs to throw for 250 to 300 yards for them to win. I'm not sure he can, or he hasn't shown me that he can. Boy, oh boy, did he play a terrific game.
Yeah, he did. He did. He showed a lot of mobility and the ability to throw on the run. And
Yep.
we talked about thinking that this is their weak link, that he is not a superstar stature quarterback and maybe never will be, but he might be able to run this offense good enough to get them to where they need to be. He's had enough experience. He's been here long enough time. And he made a couple of throws Saturday on the run and that were excellent. So,
accurate on the money.
Some people develop, some people get better as they come along. Like I told people before, I said, Johnny Unitas got cut twice and he didn't make it until he was 25. So I'm not trying to say he's Johnny Unitas. I'm just saying that quarterbacks develop over time. And he for the first time, Ross, I saw him have that kind of pro potential where he might be able to play out there.
Yeah, you know what? Reminder, the last time Notre Dame won the national championship, the quarterback's name was Tony Rice. He never made it to the NFL or didn't have any significant career in the NFL, but sometimes you don't have to be an NFL Hall of Famer. You could be a great college quarterback, and I think Ian Book certainly showed me that he's capable of leading the team to a national championship. Still a lot of football yet to be played. Chipper, it's time for us to sign off. I know you got your new website coming up, chipwins.com. We'll keep the people posted on that. Should be up sometime this week. And for Ross Benjamin and for Chip Chirimbus, thank you for joining us today on the OSGA YouTube channel. We'll be back tomorrow for our NFL early edition. Be sure to join us then. Once again, folks, good luck and God bless.